Hello, everybody. I'm Helene Segura. Welcome to another edition of the Time Management Revolution podcast. Today, I would like to introduce you to my guest, Justus Zeemann. He is a mentor for clarity and energetic performance with experience across 22 plus countries and a background in entrepreneurship. He helps high-level individuals resolve the energetic distortions that block decision-making, fuel burnout, and dim momentum. His work is precision-level realignment of the human energy system to unlock sustainable clarity, flow, and aligned action. He works with those ready to face what most overlook, the subtle fears that quietly steer big outcomes. Welcome, Justus.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here. And
Great.
I think that's all we have to say, right? Now everything is crystal clear.
Right, exactly. And now what I'd really love to do is dive into some of the terms actually that you use in your introduction. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today because besides the fact that you're an interesting person, which everybody is going to find out during this conversation, but what you do has a direct relationship to what my time management clients need, because time management is about more than calendars and task apps. It's a philosophy, a perspective that involves the mind to get that clarity and flow and decision making. So, and to back things up, I would like to talk about a job title that I saw you list, and that job title is quantum therapist. Can you please explain what a quantum therapist is?
Yeah, so I don't know if that exists in the wide world. I think I came up with it. There's a scientific approach, like I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm a supply engineer, so I always have the science and the physics with me. And there's the woo-woo magic approach, how we call it. So let's say a quantum, scientifically, it is the smallest unit of something that you can measure. So that is the scientific explanation. But nowadays, quantum is used by so many things in so many spiritual and esoteric ways to go into your deeper. And if I say quantum, I talk about the smallest piece that you can imagine, and then a few levels smaller. So we go behind your imagination. For that, I go a little bit deeper in a second. And then therapy, the second term of quantum therapy. Therapy is like, by definition, it is a process after you had an injury or you had a disease or you needed therapy for a mental issue, which happens often, especially with burnout and stuff. So the therapy is basically the bring you back to life part. So what we do in quantum therapy is that we go infinitely small, like really small, to make the big results. Because if you imagine you could shrink yourself so small that you can penetrate all your cells and all your atoms and the parts of your atoms, then you can go everywhere and you can do therapy everywhere on the root where your real issue comes from. And that is why I named it quantum therapy, because we go so subtle, we go so small that we can just go to the root and solve the issue there. And then we don't have to bother with all the symptoms on the upper layers, let's say.
Oh, nice. I love that. Okay, I'm going to further dissect your introduction because I love so many of the terms that you use in there. And I think by talking about those terms, we also unpack everything that you would like to teach us. The next term that fascinated me was energetic distortions. What are those?
Wow, what level do we go, right?
Yeah, right.
So let's say we come from the quantum because we explained that. So let's say you are a combination of all these super small things. Like if you add them all up, you get your atoms, the atoms get into molecules, the molecules get into your cell structures, and then you build your whole body. So if you look at it from the quantum field, you are energy. But everything around you is also energy. So everything is in an interchange with you. And some of the things we say, cool, we let them in, we let them pass through. Some of the things we said it's not cool, so we don't let them in. And some of the things, they are just in our field without even realizing it. Like now we are communicating, but we don't see the sound waves, which are even digital, because I'm speaking into a microphone on one spot of the world, you're on the other spot of the world. It's all made somehow, but we can't see it, but it is happening. That's the evidence is there. You can hear me, I can hear you. We can even see each other without being able to touch. So the energy is always there. And if you are there in marketing, for example, like the coaches, they like to say, you are the product of your surrounding. Like you are the product of the 5 people that are the most close to you, because they have the biggest influence to you. And they have the influence not only with what they do and what they say, because you spin your mind around them. You think about your loved ones, you think about your children, you think about your employees. How can I do this? How can I do that? So there are thoughts that are zero physical, real 3D contact, but the energy is in the realm. So they also have thoughts that are producing energies, and they can be helpful and they can be toxic. And sometimes if we are not aware of it, then I call it distortions, because they just hit our system without really realizing it, or without acting on it. Because even if we realize that somebody is not good for us, sometimes we are still not far enough to act on it. We need more evidence, we need more pushes until we finally say, okay, look, this is not working.
So this is the human energy system that you refer to in your introduction then?
No.
Okay, so then tell us about that, because then that's the next part. I'm fascinated with the human energy system, and once we know what it is, how do you realign it?
Yeah. So here again, we have the scientific way, we have the non-scientific way, let's say. Not yet. I guess we will measure it and we will go there, because technology becomes better and better. But let's say if you go in advanced medicine, you would call it your homeostatic system. Like how everything works together, like your organs, your bones, your nervous system, how it all comes together. That is the scientific way, let's say. And then you can measure that your brain is sending out an impulse and one of your organs is reacting, and then your whole body is reacting. Like in fear, for example, if you look back to the old times when there was a saber-toothed tiger, your eyes see it, your brain is working it, sending message to the organs, and they are producing this chemical cocktail that allows you to run as quick as you could never without the tiger. Right? So that is something you could measure, but this is not, it is not something that is going down your body. It is a signal. It's not a physical part of your being going down there and doing the work, right? So that would be maybe the scientific way, or the medical way to talk about it. And then when I talk about it, it's a combination of all the aspects of your being. And for that, we have to accept that we are not only this, we are not only our physical being, we are also a being where we cannot look. Like as we spoke about the sound waves or the video signal. If I see the colors on my screen, they are only made in my brain, how we say, with the eyes and upside down. We know that stuff. I guess we know that. So if you allow yourself to believe that, then where do you stop allowing yourself to believe that you are more than what you can see and feel and hear and smell, and right? Like what is behind your senses, let's say. And for me as a natural scientist, when I first discovered this, I was like, no, never. This is not working. So I studied quantum physics and I studied neuroscience again to understand even better how it works, because I wanted to figure out, am I crazy or is this something for real, right? And then over the years, it just evolved and I started to believe it. And then that opens the box. And now I would say that you and me, we are both the physical beings that's our physical system. And we have a brain and we have a heart that are physical there. But we also have an energy of the mind. And we also have an energy of the heart. These are the two main parts, let's say, where my clients usually get the first connection. And then if you go a little bit further behind that, you would say you have an energetic body, which is like an extra body that is connecting the physical one to the energy world, let's say. If we go a bit more crazy, you will realize that you can separate it from the physical one. I don't know how practical that is for this podcast, but it allows you, if you really go down this road and you understand that your mind is doing a lot of things that it doesn't have to do because another part of your energetic system can do it, then you understand that there's a lot of capacity coming free. And then you don't need that long for your tasks. And you don't have to think all the time because something else of your system is doing the work. That is the biggest time gainer for me in the last 6 years. It's incredible to see it with the clients. Like they work 8 hours and now they work 3 and they have better output because everything, it's a holistic system, this energy system, let's say. There's more parts, but I don't know how crazy we want to go.
I think we should dive into it because the purpose of this whole podcast is for people to learn more than just physical tools, because time management is beyond that. It's an entire realm. So I think it is important to dive into it. And I know that I am understanding most of what you're saying, but not all. So hopefully all the listeners of this episode are going to say, oh, Justus, I understood exactly what you said right now. But for those who are like me, I would like to ask some more questions. So I understand the physical self, and I hear what you're saying, that there is this energetic self. So you've got brain part and then the heart part. That's the first step along the path. So would that be like saying that I have a physical self, but then I also have this soul? Would soul be another way to describe the heart part of this energy then? Is it along those lines, or help me figure that out? See, this is why we need to ask questions, because I'm a little
I give
lost,
you an
but
overview.
I want to learn this.
Okay, so your being consists of your physical body with all the parts. Then you have the energy of your mind and the energy of your heart.
Okay.
Then you have a higher self. Then you have core energies. And you have a soul. Okay. So these 6 parts are the major parts of your being. And from the last 6-7 years of working with this, I can see that it's all the same for every human I ever worked with. And if I fly to different continents and people tell me different stories, even without working with them, I see it matches up. So you see the crosses, right? Like we come from different cultures, different ages, different experiences. We see the same things, which is lovely, because then my scientific mind is like, okay, it's there somehow, right? Right. So from all these things, your energy of your mind, your energy of your heart, your higher self, and your core energies, they are only for your life, let's say. And then your soul is for your whole existence. So for all your lives, which now means that there is some kind of reincarnation, right? That there's a life after death and a life before death. If we still believe in a linear time, which then is the next level of going crazy, right? But that's not so practical for us here, right? So the soul is the one that always comes back, but the soul is not the one that is connected to your memory system. So if you are born again, then you might not instantly remember everything. But everybody of us at a certain age has situations where we meet people, where we feel connections, and we're like, how is this possible? I get goosebumps when I talk about it because I can feel it. So you meet somebody and you're like, I never met that person before, but this connection is there. Like how... my screen went off for a second. Sorry. Oh, okay. How can
You're still here for me.
I'm still here. That's good.
Yes.
So how can I make sense into that? It's really difficult, but I can feel it. So there is a sensation, and that could often be that these souls have a connection, but that is on another layer, on another dimension, on a world that we cannot see physically, hear, touch, smell, taste, right? It's in a different layer of our existence, let's say. And then if you want to work with your whole being, obviously you have to go to a layer where you can meet your whole being. So then you have to say, okay, I'm physical, but I'm also going into another layer, and I talk to the energy of my mind and my heart. And if I need help, maybe my higher self is joining me, or my next higher self, or my next higher self, which sounds crazy, but let's say there's plenty of layers. And if we are sitting on our chair and we look straight, we can look 50 meters. If we stand up, we can look 70 meters. If we go on a ladder, step 1, we can look 150 meters. So let's say if you are there and you talk to your higher self, that is you standing on the first ladder, like one step up. So you talk to yourself, but you have a better view. And then your next higher self is another step higher, so it can look 300 meters. So you get a totally different perspective. And if we come back to how can I optimize my timings and the things I'm going to do, if you are connected with yourself on a different layer, you ask different questions, or you stop even asking because you know, I get this information, I can just follow, because where it comes from, that part of me can look further and wider than I can. And then you only have to do it often enough to start trusting it. And once you do that, it's an upward spiral. It's propelling your life like really, really in ways that I cannot even expect. Like with my clients, I can see what we are working on, and I can see the directions they go in life. But sometimes things are happening. I'm like, well, we both didn't see that coming, and it's so much bigger. But it's a lovely process. Yeah.
Wow. So how would you help us, your clients, climb this ladder?
So from my experience, and I don't know if there's another way, but from my experience, it is happening when it is needed. So for example, let's say you would like to meet, who's your idol? Who's your favorite actor? Or Keanu Reeves, for example.
Okay,
Right?
I'm glad you picked him. He is my favorite crush actor, not necessarily actor. Sorry, Keanu. But yes, let's go with Keanu Reeves.
Okay. So let's say we want to meet this humble, charming entertainer, right? I'm also a big fan. So we want to meet him. And it's really difficult unless we stalk where he's going and everything, right? But if we know somebody who knows him, who can make an intro, then it's way easier to meet him. Then we can maybe prepare even values that we can bring to him, so he would even like us more, right? So if you want to meet him, you need somebody in the middle. And let's say if you go to other layers and you would clean up your core energies and you would work with them, then usually you would need your higher self. But if you are not in a position to work with your core energies, you might not even meet your higher self, because you first have to work with your mind and your heart to be ready that they trust each other, and then together, because you need both if you're going to take care of your core energies. This is really deep work. So then your higher self will come and assist you. But if your higher self doesn't know how it works, then your next higher self may come and help. But in the beginning, this is usually really, it's a crazy experience for the clients. And often it's only fog or colors or something they cannot define. But the more you work, the more it gets a shape and a structure. And I have the wildest clients with the wildest pictures of what they see, and I'm like, okay, I know, because I've seen so many things in my own journey, that I'm like, okay, let's accept that and see how it can help us and how it is working in our interest. So if you just sit down and you say, I want to meet my higher self, I don't know anybody who made that happen on this level of higher self connection that I'm talking about. I know that there are people, they talk about the higher self and the whatever, but it's usually not this deep, profound assistance, let's say.
And when you say do the work or work on yourself or deep work, are we talking about pausing and meditating for 30 minutes? Are we talking about hypnosis? What do you mean by the work?
Okay, so my approach is all over the place, let's say. So I do hypnotherapy, in a holistic way with an awake trance. That means that you're fully there and we are talking all the time, and you stand up, you drink, you go to toilet, whatever, but you're in a really deep state of focus. And my work, the one-on-one work, not the group work or the retreats or the workshops, the one-on-one work is something between 4 to 14 days, every day from morning till evening. And I don't have a time limit. I'm 24/7 in the energy of my client because we move big things. It's not like, oh, let's have a session and next week you come again, right? So it's a really intense process, which is extremely quick. Even if it sounds like a lot of time, you achieve, in this short amount of time, you achieve so many things. So to come back to this point of what is the work. So we have maybe a bit of this awake trance, this hypnotherapy. Then we have energy work, which is different for every client. So I don't have one method that fits them all, because everybody is an individual. So everybody needs an individual treatment in my world. And with the energy work, it can be, I don't know, did you ever do any energy work? Do you have any experience with it?
Not as deep as what you are talking about. The most is just a meditation, which does not last 4 to 14 days, but it's just something that's very short, 30 minutes, and it's just basically calming the brain. It's not going nearly as deep as what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so energy work for me is working with energy. It means the subtle force we talked about, the smallest piece, you really work with it. You move it. You either go in other layers and do something there, you build stuff or you repair stuff or you heal yourself or whatever is needed, or you work with other people. There are these healers that can heal in the distance. So that would also be energy work, right? So I did that in the beginning of my journey, and I guess I needed it so that my brain starts to accept all these things. Because I was like, if we would have this conversation 8 years ago, you tell me what I tell you today, I would be gone already. I wouldn't. That was not my world at all. It was only mental and business building and go for it. So I made a 180-degree turn as well. But now I have all this business knowledge and I can transfer it into the space. So the energy work is real energy work. And then, yes, there is meditation. So my clients learn how to meditate and do their homeworks, because it's not only us working. It's not like 14 days done, boom. Because once you walk that path, you understood what else you could do, right? And then they work for themselves. There's a bit of follow-up, but I'm not a therapist where you come again and again and again and again. Maybe after a couple of years and you're ready for something more, then we can do that. Or you join a mentoring ongoing program where you get specific things to do, but you do them yourself. I'm not doing it for you. Also in the one-on-one work, I'm not doing it for you. You have to do it all yourself. So the energy work you do is fitting your kind of work. And some people are feeling it in the body. Some people are doing it only with imagination. Some people have physical results, that things are changing in the physical world. So everybody is a bit different. And then there's music. So I figured that, and maybe this is already a question for later when you ask personal questions, right? But for me, my path is, I'm not reading, I'm not listening to anybody, I don't do any education, I don't visit anybody, I don't have a guru or a mentor. It just pops. And then often I don't know what to do with it until I need it. So it's a really, really trustful process, let's say. So I was in Mexico and had my morning walk, and listen to the music I'm listened to for 20 years. And out of the sudden, I can feel the emotion of the artist that was making that song at that moment. And that is really interesting, but not what I wanted. I wanted my morning walk. And so I just skipped the song and I'm like, no, next. And it happened again. And it happened for the next 45 minutes. And I was skipping the songs and I could feel all the things. And for the rest of the day, I was done, of course, because if you have emotions like this, changing all the time, up and down, it's a lot, right? So, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was just like, okay, another crazy thing happened in my life. Great. What now? 3 weeks later, I have a client and she sits in front of me and I see the energy in her. And I remember, wait, there's a song with the same energy. because an emotion is an energy in motion. So if you have an emotion, it is a certain energy going through you. And when I see her energy and I know that energy is in that song, I just ask, hey, can we try something? I have an idea. First time, she said yes. We tried and boom, it helped her so much. So since that day, since 5 years now, I work also with music. So I curate the music for my clients that they get the right songs in the right order to go deeper or to do their own thing. So I have workshops, for example, where I work with 4 to 6 people, and it's a whole day workshop. So they learn energy work. We start really basic and we evolve into a really deep method. And while they are doing it, I am choosing the music because I'm looking at everybody and I know, okay, this person needs this person needs this, and then they go through that journey. So I don't know, is that energy work? Is it music work? Is it meditation? It's coming all together somehow, as long as it really works, right?
Right. And based on each individual. Now, I want to go back to when you said that when you're working with a client, it can be 4 to 14 days when you're doing that deep work, going through everything. So my clients, when they hear 4 to 14 days, they would think, oh my gosh, I have to give up my life for 4 to 14 days. I can't work. I can't do anything else. So could you give a few more logistical details about what do you mean by 4 to 14 days? We have to sit in front of a Zoom camera and look at you for that long, or how does it work?
That would not work at all. Usually I fly to my clients or they fly to me.
Okay.
So it's a physical presence thing. I have a client this summer that I worked with 2 years ago. Then a year ago, she was in a mentoring process for 6 months or 3 months. I don't know. And with her, I will do physical sessions, and then we will try how it is if I go into the room next door and we do it via audio call. But I can do it with her because she's super advanced. But to give some context, so logistical first, that was your question. So either I fly to them or they fly to me. And depending on the client, I have clients that like to get up at 5:30 in the morning. I have clients that like to start at 10 a.m. I don't mind. I'm doing both, and I'm in such a good energy when I work that it doesn't really matter. So we have a session in the morning, and it can be a 45-minute session, and for the rest of the day, it's over. Or it can be a 7-hour session and we go happily for dinner together and have a good chat, and that's it. So the way how the sessions evolve is always serving the client. And that is where we have to, let's say you have like a cheese ball, like a cheese globe on top of your cheese that no flies can come. We just take that and we lift it up, right? So your world becomes bigger, let's say. And then what we either do is we book an accommodation or we go into a hotel, or usually it's better hotels where you have good food and good simmer service, like room service and all these supplies, because you want to be fully in your process. If you decide to go down that road, you don't want to bother with anything. And I will explain why. But there's also no business usually. There's usually no family involved. And really rarely they are with their family in this time. I have clients where I work with one partner and then with the other partner because they understood. And it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money. So you usually don't make this decision alone. Right? You do it together with your partner and you're going through a deep transformation. So your partner has to be cool with that. If your partner is not cool with that, you might rethink that as well. But that's a different topic, right? But if you want to evolve, it's more than just, let's go and have a good time. And then I have clients, they have businesses and they have to do certain meetings. And then we pre-schedule that. So that means that if we know there's an important meeting at 3 p.m. at day 7, we will not do a super intense morning session because you might go through some traumata and you might release deep things. And then you sit in a board meeting and you have to decide where the next 500K goes. That doesn't work, right? You have to be at your game if you want to make this decision. So we have to somehow do that. Usually the clients I work with are at that level of, they are so ready to evolve, to make this quantum leap, if you want to name it like that, that we find the right timing and the resources. And for some, it's easier to fly out wherever I am so that they are completely separated. And for some, it's easier if I just fly there and we work where they are. And I bring everything. It's like it's a premium experience, right? So I bring all the materials, all the little things that change over the 14 days, because they should not bother with anything. They should go fully into the experience. And let's say if we want to have this podcast, we both have to move into our rooms. We have to set up everything, the technology. We have to have time in our schedule, and then we can do it. If, I don't know, do you have kids?
No, we don't. Just the four-legged kind.
The four-legged kind.
Yes.
So if you educate your four-legged friend to do something, and you screw that up a little bit, you can teach it again and it might work, but it takes a lot of time. That's because we're physical. Now imagine you are not physical, because we are here in the Zoom call. If I say, imagine you go into your kitchen now, now you're in your kitchen, but you're still here, you didn't move. Right. So that gives you an idea of the speed we are moving with. So if we work 14 days, we work with a speed that is, it's not made for many people, let's say. It's a really kaboom. I tend to say we do in 3 hours what you need 70 years for. Because if you go through a life knowledge and a life wisdom of 70 years in 3 hours, that is how I frame it. So it's a lot to handle, but it is releasing so many things in such a short time. But 14 days is really the extreme. Also, if I do education, if I educate hypnotherapists in this holistic way, then it's also 14 days, because first there's at least 1 week to take care of their own system. And then there is practical lessons with test clients so that they also have some practical knowledge, because hands-on is important in my opinion, in my education. But if I had a client, for example, a headhunter, so she's positioning CEOs in big companies, and she's doing that for 20 years. And she met me by accident. I was with a friend for lunch. He asked, how was the retreat in Mexico? And I'm telling him about the retreat and what we did and blah, blah, blah. And then she's out of the sudden, she didn't know me first time. She's like, I want to work with you. And I'm like, what do you want? Right. And she said, look, I'm a headhunter and I'm doing this and I'm working with these companies. And these companies, they are really conservative. You cannot go there and say, hey, I work with energies, because then you know how it works, right? So what she proposes, if it is possible to check the energy of the company and check the energy of the prospect. And if they match, she will try to get them together. If they don't match, she will not even try. That was 2021. She became a friend, so I know what it is. 2 weeks ago, we've been for dinner. So now she was living in Munich. Now she's living in Munich, in Cyprus. And every winter she's spending somewhere in Asia. She has a team, revenue went up 30%, and she has 2 weeks a month off. So she has way more time now and way more resources, but she cannot tell anybody what she's doing because her market would not understand. But we did that in 4 days because it was a really specific goal, what she wanted to do. Besides that, we released some fears because they always like side effects, fears. And that was only 4 days. That was another example, right? Then there are people that do 7 days. It's always a bit different depending on what you want to achieve and how deep you want to go.
Now, you mentioned fears just a moment ago, and you also mentioned subtle fears in your introduction. So how do fears get in our own way?
Are they?
That was, maybe I'm projecting, but that was the interpretation when I was reading your introduction. So it's the subtle fears that can either get in our own way, or as you say in your introduction, can steer big outcomes. So how do our subtle fears affect us?
Yeah. So subtle fears and big fears. I have the conscious fears and the unconscious fears, let's say.
Okay.
So are you afraid of anything?
Sure. Do you want to know all of them?
No, just one, like maybe
Okay, so
related to you, the audience.
related to the audience. So first I'll tell you the crazy one, and then I'll tell you the one related to the audience. I have my crazy fear is when I am driving under an overpass and I have to come to a stop. So there's a highway above me. I have a
Hmm.
fear that it's going to collapse on me. And I am
Hmm.
afraid of my car being stopped under an overpass. So that's my wild fear. My fear that our listeners could probably relate to is I sometimes that imposter syndrome kicks in, and I
Hmm.
fear that other people won't realize that I know my stuff, and then I start to doubt myself.
Hmm. So one is doubt and one is okay. So you realize both of these fears. So they are already in your consciousness. So that's part of the process, right? So
Mhm.
now you are in the process of making a decision, like how severe are these fears? Are they tough enough that you really want to get rid of them? Or is it like, yeah, from time to time, I have to stop there. It's not so much, I will not invest time. So let's say it's case number 2. It means that that fear is always in your system, but you only realize it when you're in the situation.
Mhm.
But it's always consuming energy. And that is how the fear lives in your system. And then how did it come there? Have you been, I mean, I guess not, but have you been in the situation that you've been in a car and something crashed on top of it? Doesn't have to be a whole highway.
No, I was in a situation where a car rolled down the hill toward ours and hit the side of the car I was on, but it wasn't crushing from the top.
Uh-huh. So you had an accident, but you didn't have where this fear comes from. So it's in my
Mhm.
world, that is an irrational fear
Mhm.
because you did not experience this in this life.
Mm.
So it's like people, they have fears of dogs, but they've never been bitten. So how? Like why? Right? So there's usually uh, an energetic thing going on, let's say. But then there are the fears where something fall on your car, a highway, and you luckily survived. And then you're
Mhm.
either like, okay, there's a chance that that happens. It's so low, it will never happen again. I don't mind. Or it's a trauma, and you're like, I will stop in front of the highway, even if it's 100 meters, right? I will not
Mhm.
park there if I have to.
Mhm.
And then, of course, nobody can relate, and everybody gets angry on the car that is standing in front of the highway. Not at you, because they don't know you, right? If you would explain, they would say, "Oh, sure, I feel sorry, but there is this car, right?" Because they have fear to be too late or be out of control or whatever. So they also have their fears. So
Mhm.
we all have our fears walking around. So the the reasons why fear are in our system or entering our system can be many. And then the the readiness to tackle them depends on how much they are limiting us. And
Mhm.
if I say, are they really blocking us? I guess I have this vision at the moment, and I'm deep into this because at this moment I'm writing a book about fears and how to handle them. And
Okay.
just today is an amazing day. I had a call with an editor before, and we're gonna work together, I guess. So it's an amazing process of writing this. And if fear is not ready to leave, if you cannot make it go, or if you're not ready to make it go because it's not bad enough, you didn't suffer enough,
Mhm.
then it's usually, I call it a guardian. Because once that fear is gone, something else becomes visible. And as long as the fear is there, you will not see it
Mhm.
because you're still buzzering with that fear. You're still building up momentum to overcome that fear. But you need that momentum, that energy to handle whatever is behind that fear. And if a fear leaves, usually there's no party, there's no fireworks or anything. It's just gone. And you're like, whoa, liberating. Nice. Next. So that is how we are. And if we go to energy work, if a fear leaves your system, then there's a void, like a hole. And if you work with energies, you can invite a nicer energy into that hole. And if you talk about time management, I would always say trust. Because if you have doubts, trust is a really good helper with your doubt. Right? So then if you have to make two decisions and you need 1 second to make that decision, or you need 0 seconds to make that decision, on 30 years, this is a lot of seconds adding up, right? So this is a subtle part that I mean. Like sometimes we need weeks to make decisions because they're big decisions, as we say. But is it really the decision, or is it the whole process that is coming afterwards, the uncertainty where we need more trust? Same example, my girlfriend moved in on Monday, like selling her life in another country, moving to my country. Right? So I have to hold the space because it's such a big energy shift and everything, and she needs so much trust to do that. So you have to have a certain level of energy available to tackle your fears and then make the step you need to. So with the subtle fears, if you don't even realize them, if you don't have the knowledge that they are constantly consuming your energy, you would never handle them, right? And even if you know them, maybe they are not so bad, so you don't even treat them, and they can just consume and attract others. So I say it's like a buffet or buffet. I don't know how to say in English. Yeah?
Buffet.
Yeah. So you get all the food you want, right?
Right.
And as long as a fear is allowed to sit on the table, it will not leave. The moment the food supply is gone, the fears is out the door because there's no energy. What should they consume, right? So they go. And that is what I mean. Like if we work, fears are often a side effect because once one thing is gone and that table is closed, the other 5 people also have to leave that table and find food somewhere else. That's what I mean with it. So it's like a ripple effect.
Oh, wow. This is so fascinating. We really could talk for hours, but I do want to ask the now more personal questions. One of them is, what's your biggest life lesson? And it could be maybe a failure, and not everybody likes to use the word failure because a lot of people see it as, oh, things didn't work out and this is what I learned from it. So what do you think has been your biggest life lesson so far?
I've seen that question before and I was like, what should I answer? And I'm like, I will see when the question comes. And at this moment, I think it's patience. Like for real, because we often fall into the trap that we need it now and we need it quick and we need it maybe even quick and perfect. And if we just breathe a couple of times and bring in some patience, then wow, it can be different. And now I'm good. But a couple of years ago, patience was really bad also for my relationships, for my work, for my business partners, because if they are not quick enough, if whatever happened, right, I'm like, like a leash, like really not good, right? So, and for that, I don't know if you know Gene Keys. It's like
I've
a
heard the name.
system. Yeah, it's a system. So there's human design. I don't know if you heard that. So human design is, let's say, the practical part, really basic spoken, right? The practical part, and Gene Keys is a theory behind it. And we all have different gene keys and are interconnected with each other, the gene keys. And one of my major gene keys, the dark side of that key, is patience, right? Let's say. And then, so it has a dark side, a bright side, and a illumination, let's say. But that's why patience is a thing for me. So being patient was the biggest lesson, I think. Brought the most benefits.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. Something else I'm going to ask you to share is, you seem to have it together. You're so calm. You're so patient. What is a typical day like for you? Is it always this calming? Do you have a certain schedule? What's certain routines maybe? What is a typical day like for you?
So there is the last months, and then there is the 7 years before.
Okay.
What is most relevant for you?
Let's do the last month.
Okay, so the last month, on 1st of May, I started to work on the book, or I started to build a new business, let's say. And after 2 weeks, it came out, okay, I'm going to write this book now. And when I was still living in Germany, where I'm originally from, I had a time where I was working 16 hours a day because I had a business consulting agency and I built a second business. And I was just like a German robot with all the neuroscience, you know how your brain works, so you can manipulate yourself until you get physical or health issues, which is like usually a reminder you do too much. And when I started in May, after 4 days, I get my physical reminder and I'm like, oh, back into the old patterns. Let's have a day of break and then be calm, right? There's the patience again. So nowadays it's like I wake up, depending, latest at 7. Usually I wake up at 6 or 5:30 because that is when the sun rises. Then I either go for 1 hour of a walk or I go for 1 hour of mountain biking, which is lovely on this island. And I either listen to music or to podcasts on these walks, depending if I want input or if I just want me. Sometimes I listen to nothing. And then I come home and I work for 1 hour on whatever my calendar is saying me. So in my calendar, which is pre-organized, there is, for example, this morning it was research this and this about the book writing process. And if it's orange, I'm sitting. If it's yellow, I'm standing. So that's it, right? So I have it set up and then there's a break. And then I go and take my break. Because if I don't, I'm looking at my clock 8 hours later and I have the same issues I know already, right? So I even put the breaks in. So that is how my days look. Then there's a lunch break. And then in the afternoon, it's usually a bit less work, more organization, because I'm not so focused anymore. I have my 4, 5, 6 hours where I do what other people do in a week, let's say, without being mean. It's just somehow it became that efficient.
Right.
And I mean, I wrote I don't know how many pages it is because it's not edited yet, but I have my 25,000 words, which is around a 100-page book usually, in 3 days. So it's just like flowing if I do, right? And I know what I'm talking about, so let's make it maybe easier. I don't have to do a lot of research. I know I have to do research, so how to make it that people want to read it. So that is the research that's coming now. And then in the evening, I'm either going for groceries or I meet with friends, either online or physical on the island. And now that my girlfriend finally moved in, we spend even more time together, which is lovely. So I have a bit of a work day and I have a, let's say, a self-care moment, like in the morning usually before breakfast. I even work usually 1 slot before breakfast because I think if the body gets movement and then the brain gets movement, it can digest the physical food a bit better. And then it's dinner, and then something between 9 and 11, I go to bed. And then I wake up, and next day I do the same thing. Or I take a day off, or I drive somewhere nice on the island, or because that is the 7 years before I had to work with my clients, and that is still a unique position. I don't have to work with anybody if I don't want to. Because before I left Germany, I built a passive income business, which is still paying everything 7 years later. And if I cannot help somebody, if I am not the right person to help you with your transformation, I will not work with you. Because I can spend my time beautifully somewhere on the globe, enjoying my life instead of doing work that I'm not supposed to do. So I pick my clients and then I work with them. So that also made it really liberated and free. And that is where, for example, because you shared a bit of your fears, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I'm going on a podcast about time management. How can I relate to the corporate world, right? Because I had my agency, but that was before I left Germany. And then I was just chilling, how I call it. In reality, I was like massively transforming myself from the mental engineer to this spiritual thought leader, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And if I tell other people what I do, they ask me, how many lives do you live? And if I look at myself, I'm like, I don't do a lot. So somehow I'm in the right spot, I guess. And how to be calm and patient, trust. If you take anything from this, find a way to build your trust. And I don't mean trust other people, I mean trust yourself. If you can trust yourself to make the right decisions, to be at the right time and the right spot with the right people, you become way more calm because you're not running behind anything, because you know and you trust I'm in the right spot. So let's do it. And that really slows down your life and gives you a lot of resources for other things.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And Justus, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
It depends on what they want. So
okay, well, give us a couple of choices.
Yes, choices are great because we are all in different positions in life, right? And somebody might hear this and say, damn, I really want that transformation, I have to go there. Then just write me an email and we get in touch. And if you don't get an answer, reach out on social media, because sometimes there's a spam filter or something. But if you're just like, oh, that's interesting, that's inspiring, but it's way too far out. It's way too spiritual or esoteric or it's all this energy stuff. I'm not in that realm, right? I'm like, I want practical, boom, boom, boom. Then either listen to you or check my social media, like on X, it's now Twitter, right? It's just a line with an inspirational thought that popped up and I just posted there. Then Instagram is a little bit more with background informations about it. My website, I publish all my articles on the website. So there's article series about fear. So you get a way better understanding of what is a fear, how does it influence me, and how you can treat yourself a little bit or give yourself a bit of room, because fears tend to really compress us. And it's so easy if you take your time and you just breathe a little bit and you make a little bit of room, you're pushing them away a bit just with breathing. Like you don't have to do breath work, you just breathe and you push them away. And there's an article about that, for example. So that is more knowledge based, less energetic based. It's more mental, let's say. So website for mental stuff and articles and knowledge, social media for inspiration, and direct contact for direct results, let's say.
Okay.
Or retreats or workshops. Yeah.
If somebody is not watching this on video, they are listening while they're on a train or while they're driving. Can you please state or spell out your website so they can hear it?
Yes. So it is Sage minus Justus. So that is SAGE for Sage, and then minus JUSTUS.com. So it's like Sage minus just us.
Very good.
Just
and
us
for for the US folks who might be listening to this, it would be sage-justus.com.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome, because I know that people in Europe would understand the minus, but those in North America, South America would probably refer to it as a hyphen. So sage-justus.com, but it's pronounced Justus, just so everybody remembers the correct pronunciation. Justus Zeemann, thank you so much for joining us today. I have loved this.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share a bit of this amazing experience.